My grandparents, Papa Jack and Mama Sarah, immigrated from Eastern Europe. They settled in a little town called New Philadelphia, Ohio, where my sister Susie and our brothers and sisters went every summer to work in their little dress shop. We didn't know till years later that they struggled to make ends meet. All we saw was simply them working hard and having their friends come in and help support them. Years later, though, I realized that they didn't want sympathy, and they certainly didn't want promises. They just wanted to know that their elected officials and the people in the community were working for them. But what does Washington do? Washington bails out banks with taxpayer dollars, but doesn't also at the same time require them to start lending to responsible small businesses and entrepreneurs who have never missed a payment in their life. Washington cuts the amounts of loans to small businesses and raises fees on business owners. The Small Business Administration loans going to Ohio, small businesses have dropped 34% over the last 3 years and 40% right here in Cleveland. That's $200 million that hasn't gone into our economy to invest in technology and expand businesses and create jobs. I saw these struggles firsthand when the Norwalk Furniture Company closed down last year after more than 100 years in business. But unlike Washington, we didn't stand around and watch a company fail. We rolled up our sleeves and together with a group of courageous community leaders and one particular hero, the mayor of Norwalk, Sue Lesh, who is here today, because of Mayor Lesh and some courageous community leaders, we worked to get them the capital they needed to reopen the company and to save about 260 jobs. Now, it took us several months and 2 attempts, but we didn't give up. And we were able to pull that community and that company back from the brink of disaster. But we can do the same all across Ohio. That's why I support using unspent TARP funds to create a $30 billion program that will allow local community banks to provide loans to small business owners and make it clear that it is time to make sure that responsible small businesses get the loans they need to survive and to thrive. It's also why I propose doubling the deduction for small business startups to $10,000, because encouraging people to start a company is the best way to grow a country and an economy. We also have to be willing to go anywhere and to meet with anyone to help bring capital together. Governor Strickland asked me to head up the Small Business Growth Partnership with my friend, State Treasurer Kevin Boyce. We have been meeting with the executives of Ohio's banks, working with them in a cooperative way to find ways to increase lending to well-qualified small businesses. Just earlier this month, Huntington Bank announced that it will ramp up its small business lending, providing more than $350 million to small businesses in an effort to jumpstart Ohio's economy. That's just the first of many steps that banks must take. But Washington, in the meantime, has been on the sidelines. For too long, the policies coming out of Washington have favored Wall Street and their army of lobbyists, not small business owners who create the majority of jobs. Too often it feels like we're fighting against Washington instead of for the people who just want a chance to work hard, play by the rules, and get a job that can't be outsourced to China or to India or to Mexico. Washington insiders seem to think it's okay to ship jobs from Ohio to China or India, and in fact, they've actually provided incentive to do so. Well, I'm not from Washington, and it's why I believe once and for all we should end the tax breaks that allow companies to freely outsource American jobs. We do have to engage in the global economy. I want to repeat that. We must engage in the global economy. But we should do so by exporting our goods and by insourcing jobs and attracting foreign investment. No longer should companies be allowed to defer paying U.S. taxes on overseas profits while hard-working Americans are struggling to make ends meet. And we can do more to keep those jobs here American companies today benefit from the research and development tax credit that funds research and innovation to create new products. But over the years, Congress has allowed this credit to lapse or has merely extended it for months or year to year. It's time to make that tax credit permanent. But even that's not enough. Far too often, the products created through research in America are made overseas. To deter companies from offshoring jobs, we should provide an additional bonus R&D tax credit to companies who agree to manufacture 50% or more of their products in the United States. But we also have to ensure that workers have a level playing field on which to compete. It's time that we tear down the unfair trade barriers to American exports by simply enforcing our trade laws. You know, when the Japanese launched their own version of cash for clunkers this year, they used certain fuel and emissions requirements that automatically disqualified American cars. This after Japanese cars were 5 of the top 10 models sold under the American program sponsored by my friend Congresswoman Betty Sutton. Well, because of Betty's work and many others, those of us who said we had to cry foul, the Japanese changed the requirements. But it illustrates how vigilant we must be. It's simply unacceptable for countries that don't follow our agreements to have unfettered access to our markets. But perhaps more than anything else, we must move as quickly as possible to a clean energy economy that reduces our dangerous dependence on foreign oil and threatens our economic security and our national security at the exact same time. Many states want to be the hub of America's clean energy economy. In fact, all states do. But very few states have what we have. We have manufacturing. We're the 3rd largest manufacturing state in the country. And we've worked to save manufacturing jobs these last 4 years, and I'm proud of what we've accomplished. Keeping Bridgestone, Firestone, and Goodyear in Akron, helping bring back the 2nd shift and today the 3rd shift to General Motors' Lordstown Assembly in Youngstown, and keeping General Electric's jet engine production and R&D facilities in Cincinnati. It's not a matter of if these jobs will be created, it's a matter of where. Will they be in Delhi or Dayton? Will they be in Cleveland or Calcutta? We have a skilled workforce of 6 million men and women, larger than the total population of 35 states. In an average wind turbine, there are 6,000 to 8,000 component parts. When I went to the American Wind Energy Conference in Houston and then the next year in Chicago, it was clear to me that Ohio was the place that could be the clean energy hub because we know how to make things. And the country that develops the cleanest technologies will be the most secure country in the coming years and decades. So we've worked with companies like Minster Machine, that was a blacksmith shop 100 years ago, and now the fastest growing unit of Minster Machine is Minster Wind. We worked with Cardinal Fastener and John Grabner right here in Cleveland to do the same, and Sunlight in Toledo, to use their manufacturing skill and to transform their companies into making component parts of solar panels and wind turbines. It's why I'm calling today also for extending the advanced energy manufacturing tax credit to cover 30% of all new or expanded clean energy manufacturing projects, such as wind and solar and advanced batteries. By expanding this credit, we're going to leverage every private dollar we can for investment in clean and renewable energy. But I've also learned over the years, especially as Director of Economic Development, that although our first priority must be to create and save jobs, we also have a responsibility, not just to ourselves but to future generations, to lay the groundwork for long-term economic growth. That means, first of all, getting our financial house in order.